Hi good people, this will be part 15 of the Frogger mini-series, and in this video we'll create the game over state for this project. We'll make use of a game manager to accomplish this goal. Let's not waste any time and just jump right into it. Alright, so last we left off we were setting up the turtles for the river. Let's go ahead and get the game over state going. So we need a way to actually basically kill the player, but we need a way to track lives. So normally you'd be able to accomplish that maybe on the level blueprint. You can also do it inside the player blueprint, but since we're going to be destroying and spawning a new player instance, we'll want to use it on a separate portion of the player blueprint, because every time we reinstantiate it, the lives are going to basically reset. So to accomplish this, let's go to our blueprints folder. We'll right click, select new blueprint class, then under all classes you search for game mode. Now you'll see game mode base, but what we want is actually just the regular game mode. With that selected, we'll call this our BP underscore game manager. And we could double click to open it up. And there are some changes we need to add. For the default pawn class, we want to use our BP underscore player. And then everything else is actually going to be okay. One thing we'll want to add is under variables. We'll click the little plus sign and we'll create a lives variable. It'll be an integer. We'll hit compile, and then we can set the default value to be maybe 3 lives starting off. Now creating the game manager is basically one step. You still need to go into your project settings, and then under maps and modes, there's a default game mode. You'll want to switch that to be the custom game manager that you just created. Alright, and once we have that set, we're going to go to the event graph for the game manager, and we'll create a custom event. And we'll call this maybe Lost Life. And then all we really want to do is we want to hold control, drag out our lives variable to do a getter. And then you can pull off that and search for a decrement. And that basically gets a reference to itself and subtracts 1 and then stores it in one nice little package there. And then we can hold B, click on the graph to get a branch node. And then what we can do is we can pull off the remaining value, and we can say if you are less equal to 0, then we can print a string called game over. And then we'll obviously create maybe like a widget in a later video to actually pop up on screen to show the game over state. That's basically the game manager setup, at least for this simple part. Now when the player dies, we are going to be destroying the player actor, which means we won't have a reference to that camera. So we're going to need a secondary camera in the scene that we can basically switch to. So we'll go to the add menu, and we can just search for camera. Choose our camera actor. And then I forgot it puts it where I'm at, and then we just need to find a spot in the map to place it. Maybe we just partial to the corner of the map here. Maybe go into rotation mode and pitch it down 30 degrees. Rotate it over. And then maybe pop it up. I think maybe right there would be okay. Now because we are using a game manager instead of the level, if we were doing the level blueprint, we could just use this as it is and create a reference to it. But because we're using another blueprint, we don't have an easy way to reference it. So what we can do to get around that is we can click this little icon right here, and we can convert the selection to a blueprint class. We have the camera currently selected. So we'll choose the option for harvest components, and then we're going to select our folder, which will be the blueprints folder, and we'll give it a name, maybe BP underscore death camera. Then we'll hit select, and what that does is it basically creates a blueprint off that that simple camera. There's really not much to it that we need. We just need a way to be able to reference it from another blueprint. So now what we can do is we can bring up our content drawer, go into your blueprints folder, and we're going to open up our player blueprint. So BP_player. Now we want to use an event begin play, which basically fires right when this is kind of like instantiated. And then what we can do is we can pull off that and do a cast to BP game manager. And then we can pull off the object and say get game mode. And then we can right click on this and do promote to variable. And we'll just call this our game manager reference. Compile and save. And that's going to be our basic begin play. We're basically just getting the game manager and getting a reference to it so we can call functions and update values if we need to from there. But we'll go back down, and we did already set up some death code. So when the death event happens, it basically checks if the player is not already dead. If they're not, it sets the is dead boolean to true, and then it prints a string saying you died, which is good. One thing we'll want to do now is the first thing we want to do is we want to get a reference to our game manager, and then we want to call that custom event lost life, because we want to, every time the player dies, we want to basically decrement the counter. Now, once we do this, and we may actually want to do this, actually we'll want to do this after, because we don't want to accidentally kill the player twice. Pull this like so, and that like there. All right, but when the player dies, we'll want to lower the game manager lives. We'll want to swap to a different camera, and then we'll want to spawn a new player instance. So let's create some more custom events here. So we'll do this one, we'll call this one camera work. And then we'll do another one that we'll call maybe spawn and swap, or whatever names you want to give it. So after we lose a life, we'll call the camera work, and then after the camera work, we'll want to come into a branch check. The branch check that we want to do is we want to get our game manager reference, we want to get the lives, and then what we want to do is we want to check to see if the lives are greater than 0. Basically just make sure that we still have a life before we spawn a new player instance. And if they do, we'll call spawn and swap. That's going to be our complicated death code, pretty much right there. But we still need to write the code for the camera work and the code for the spawn and swap. So for the camera work, what we want to do is we want to grab our player's mesh, and then we want to set hidden in game. So basically hide the current player. And then we want to get actor of class. You can probably already guess what we're trying to get, because this is camera work. We want to do our death camera. And then what we can do is off the return value, you can do an is valid check to make sure that the camera exists in the scene so you don't break or cause any breaks. And then we can get the player controller. And off the player controller, you can set view target with blend. And then the target, of course, is going to be the death camera. So we'll plug that in there. And then we can choose some time to blend across. So I'm just going to do 1 second to kind of keep it simple. And then with that, we can compile and save and actually see what this looks like. We're obviously going to have issues. Oops. I get a running start here. All right, so we are switching over to our death camera, and then the player's still in the scene. Which I don't know, can I see that with that? I think so. Yeah, it's just hidden. And you can see that on the right details panel. BP player 0 is still there. So we just basically transition that camera. We'll eventually destroy that actor or that blueprint over there, and we'll instantiate a new blueprint over here, and then kind of possess it, and then we'll destroy that one. At least that's the idea anyways. So we'll go back to the player, and that's going to be the spawn and swap. So we'll pull off into a delay node. We'll wait 2 seconds. And the reason we're waiting 2 seconds is because I think it'd be nice to switch to the death camera, enjoy it for a second or two, and then you'll spawn over to the new actor. So we'll do spawn actor from class. The actor we're going to spawn is the BP player. And we're going to right click and split the transform, because we're going to feed in a location pin. So we need that location pin first. I think right now what we can do is let's move this back to where it was, which I think was kind of like in the middle of the sidewalk here. You can see it's bad size. You want to make sure you put the capsule right above the ground so that bad size goes away. That looks good. Once you have a good position, you can come to your transform's location and simply right click and copy it. Now that we have it, we go back to our player, and under variables, we'll create a new one called our spawn lock or spawn location. The data type is of course going to be a vector. We can compile, and then for the spawn location, you just right click and select paste, and it'll pop in that spawn location that we're using from the world. So then we can just take this spawn location, attach it here, and that's pretty much good to go. So now that we've created a new instance of the player class, we want to adjust the camera to view them. So much the same way, we can do get player controller. We can pull off that and do set view target with blend. And the view target is going to be the return value for this actor that we're spawning. So set that here, and then we can do just 1 second blend times for both of these, just to make it easy. And now what's odd about this is you'll actually want to come into a delay node, and that's a little confusing. So normally you would just come directly into the possess function, which we could pull off this pin here and do a possess. Actually, maybe not. Is it the controller? Get player controller, and does that allow me to possess? It does. If it doesn't, you can just uncheck context sensitive, and then you can find it that way too. It's another trick. But all right, so normally I would just come into the possess function and just use the return value for the in pawn, which is the new pawn that we're possessing with the player. It's basically all that's saying. But the reason we have to come into a delay is, and the delay just has to be anything above 1 second, is it gives it enough time to actually do the blend with the view target. Because if you possess the player, it's going to use that player camera instantly. So you're not going to get the drift from the death camera back to the player. It'll just snap to it, which if you want a snappy view experience, you may not need this. So it's kind of I guess up to your project or what you're looking to do. But I want it to gradually change to the death camera and then gradually change to the new player, because I think that looks nicer. And then after we do all that, we no longer need this blueprint. So we can simply pull off and do a destroy actor. So we're basically using 3 custom events. We're using a death event, which we'll get a reference to the game manager, decrement the lives, and then it calls some custom events for some camera work, and then it checks if the lives are 0 or less. If it is, it won't do anything. If it's not, it'll spawn a new instance of the player, which will then possess the player and destroy this actor. So I think this is pretty good if I didn't make any mistakes here. We can do a quick test. So if I play in here, you can see that's working, and then we're shifting back. And then I can take over the new player instance there. That's 2 lives. So if I did this right, this should say game over. And then that's it. We'll maybe just add a widget here that'll just say game over to maybe make that a little bit easier. And then kind of demonstrate kind of what's happening. We can come over here and set the new hidden, compile, and save. Let's see if we can take a look. So now when I get hit, you see the frog is still technically there for like a second, and then it disappears. And that's the destroy actor. So this is a completely new class or a new blueprint that's being instantiated. And I think if we tab over here, which that didn't work, Shift F1 maybe, yeah, sweet, okay. If we go, we can see BP underscore player 2, because it started with 0, then it went 1, then it went 2, then it'll go 3. It'll basically increment. So there's a lot of different strategies you can use for handling death. Like one way is you can reuse the same blueprint. You just hide it and teleport it. We did that with our Qbert series. But another way to do it is you can simply just create a new instance and possess that one, and then make it work that way. So, and then just remember to clean up and delete your old instances so they don't take up memory. But all right, good people, I think we'll cut it here. In the next one, we'll work on the win condition for this project. As always, thanks for watching, consider subscribing, and we'll see you on the next one.